Hollywood has always sold a dream. A dream of beauty, fame, luxury, and perfection. For decades, audiences around the world looked at the silver screen and believed they were watching people who lived extraordinary, flawless lives. The actresses of Hollywood's golden age were presented as elegant, sophisticated, and almost untouchable. Their smiles appeared perfect. Their interviews sounded rehearsed. Their lives seemed like fairy tales. But behind the cameras, number one Mae West. When people think of controversial Hollywood stars, many imagine modern celebrities creating headlines on social media. But long before the internet existed, one woman shocked America in ways that seemed almost unimaginable for her era. Her name was Mae West. And for decades, she was considered one of the most daring women in entertainment. Born in Brooklyn, New York, in 1893, Mae West showed an unusual confidence from an early age. While many young women of her generation were expected to follow traditional paths, West wanted something entirely different. She wanted attention. She wanted fame. And most importantly, she wanted control over her own career. As a child, she began performing in amateur competitions and local theater productions. It quickly became clear that she possessed a natural talent for commanding an audience. But what truly separated her from other performers was her personality. Mae West understood something many entertainers did not. People remembered confidence. People remembered controversy. And people remembered individuals who dared to be different. By the 1920s, she had become a rising star on Broadway. However, her growing popularity came with increasing criticism. Unlike many female performers of the era, West openly discussed topics that society considered inappropriate. She wrote plays featuring adult themes. She challenged traditional ideas about romance and relationships. And she frequently used humor to criticize social hypocrisy. One of her most famous stage productions became so controversial that authorities actually arrested her. The play was accused of being morally offensive. Newspapers exploded with coverage. Critics condemned her. Religious groups attacked her. But something unexpected happened. The controversy made her even more famous. Mae West understood a principle that still exists in entertainment today. Attention creates opportunity. The more people criticized her, the more curious audiences became. Number 2 Tallulah Bankhead. After Mae West challenged Hollywood's censors with her wit and confidence, another woman emerged whose reputation became so wild that even Hollywood insiders struggled to keep up with the stories surrounding her. Her name was Tallulah Bankhead. And unlike many actresses who spent their careers protecting their public image, Bankhead seemed to enjoy destroying hers. For decades, she became one of the most talked about women in entertainment. Not because of carefully crafted publicity. Not because of studio marketing. But because she lived a life so unpredictable that newspapers could barely keep up. Some called her fearless. Others called her reckless. Many simply called her unforgettable. Born in 1902 in Alabama, Tallulah Brockman Bankhead came from a powerful political family. Her grandfather and father were both influential politicians. In many ways, society expected her to become a respectable Southern lady. But Tallulah had no interest in following expectations. From an early age, she possessed a rebellious streak that shocked those around her. She disliked rules. She hated being controlled. And she refused to behave the way people thought a young woman should. After winning a beauty contest as a teenager, she moved toward acting. Almost immediately, she discovered something important. The stage gave her freedom. It allowed her to become whoever she wanted. And audiences couldn't take their eyes off her. Unlike many actresses of the era, Tallulah wasn't interested in appearing sweet or innocent. She preferred being bold. She preferred being provocative. And she preferred speaking her mind regardless of the consequences. By the 1920s, she had moved to New York and later London, where her career began gaining momentum. But as her fame increased, so did the stories. And those stories quickly became legendary. Tallulah developed a reputation for living harder than almost anyone in show business. Number 3 Joan Crawford. Hollywood loves stories about success. The struggling dreamer who arrives with nothing and rises to become a star. the young performer who overcomes impossible odds and achieves fame beyond imagination. Few actresses embodied that story more completely than Joan Crawford. But behind the glamorous photographs, the elegant gowns, and the carefully controlled public image was a woman whose life became one of the most controversial and debated stories in Hollywood history. To millions of fans, Joan Crawford was the definition of success. To others, she was one of the most feared women in the entertainment industry. And decades after her death, arguments about who she really was continued to divide historians, critics, and former colleagues. Born as Lucille Fay LeSueur in Texas in the early 1900s, Crawford's childhood was marked by hardship and instability. Unlike many Hollywood stars who came from wealthy families, Joan experienced poverty at a young age. Life was difficult. Opportunities were limited. And from an early age, she understood that if she wanted a better future, she would have to create it herself. That determination would eventually become one of her greatest strengths. But it would also become one of the reasons she generated so much controversy. As a young woman, Crawford developed a reputation for relentless ambition. While others relaxed, she worked. While others celebrated success, she focused on achieving more. She wasn't interested in simply becoming an actress. She wanted to become a star. And once she entered Hollywood during the 1920s, she pursued that goal with extraordinary intensity. Movie studios quickly recognized her potential. She possessed beauty, charisma, and perhaps most importantly, an incredible work ethic. As silent films transitioned into talking pictures, many actors struggled to adapt. Joan Crawford survived the transition and continued building her career. Number 4 Jean Harlow Hollywood in the early 1930s was changing faster than anyone could predict. The silent film era had ended. Sound had taken over. A new kind of movie star was emerging, louder, bolder, and more modern than anything audiences had seen before. And at the center of this transformation stood a woman who became one of the biggest sensations of her time. Her name was Jean Harlow. To audiences, she was the ultimate blonde bombshell. To Hollywood studios, she was a box office miracle. And to critics, she was a symbol of everything glamorous, dangerous, and controversial about the new Hollywood era. Born in 1911 in Kansas City, Harlow's early life gave no hint that she would become a global icon. She grew up in a strict household, and like many young women of her time, she was expected to live a quiet, conventional life. But Hollywood had other plans. When she arrived in the film industry in the late 1920s, she quickly caught attention, not just for her looks, but for something far more powerful: screen presence. Unlike many early actresses who struggled to adapt to the new talkies, Harlow had a natural confidence in front of the camera. She was magnetic. She was modern. And she felt different from the elegant, distant stars of the silent era. Hollywood noticed immediately. Her breakthrough came quickly, and soon she was appearing in films that emphasized her bold personality and glamorous image. Studios began marketing her as something new, a fearless, seductive, and independent woman who represented a changing society. At a time when traditional values were still strong, Jean Harlow's on-screen image shocked some audiences while thrilling others. She became associated with roles that pushed boundaries for the era. Not because of explicit content by modern standards, but because she represented a new kind of female confidence that felt rebellious in the early 1930s. Her rise to fame was rapid. Number 5 Ava Gardner. By the time Hollywood entered the mid-1940s, the golden age had fully matured. The studio system was at its peak. Movie stars were global icons. And public fascination with celebrity lives had become stronger than ever before. In this era, few actresses captured the imagination of audiences quite like Ava Gardner. She was beautiful in a way that felt almost effortless. She had a presence that made cameras linger longer than necessary. And she carried an aura of mystery that Hollywood could never fully control. But unlike many carefully manufactured stars, Ava Gardner's reputation was not entirely shaped by studio publicity. It was shaped by her life, her choices, and the intense relationships that made her one of the most talked about actresses of her generation. Born in 1922 in North Carolina, Gardner came from a humble background. Her early life was far removed from Hollywood glamour. She was discovered almost by accident when a photograph of her caught the attention of MGM executives. Soon after, she was brought into the studio system and introduced to a world she had never imagined. Hollywood immediately recognized her potential. But there was one problem. Ava Gardner did not behave like a typical studio star. She was independent. She was outspoken. And she had little interest in following strict studio rules. At MGM, stars were expected to maintain carefully controlled public images. But Gardner resisted being shaped into a predictable role. Instead, she developed a reputation for honesty and emotional intensity. This made her both admired and difficult to manage. On screen, she quickly proved her talent. Her performances carried depth, emotion, and a natural charm that made her stand out. But it was off-screen that her legend truly began to grow. Hollywood gossip columns became fascinated with her personal life. Her relationships were widely discussed in newspapers across America. Number 6. Judy Garland. Hollywood has always been a place of dreams. But for some stars, those dreams come with a cost that the audience never sees. Few stories in Golden Age Hollywood illustrate this truth more painfully than the life of Judy Garland. To the world, she was a once-in-a-generation talent. A voice that felt timeless. A performer who could move effortlessly between innocence, emotion, and deep vulnerability. But behind the applause, her life was shaped by pressure, control, and a system that demanded perfection at any cost. Born in 1922 as Frances Ethel Gum, Judy Garland entered show business at an extremely young age. Even as a child performer, it was clear that she possessed something extraordinary. Her voice carried emotion far beyond her years. Her timing was natural. And audiences instantly connected with her. Hollywood noticed quickly. And once she was brought into the studio system, her life changed forever. At MGM, one of the most powerful studios of the Golden Age, Garland was placed under intense control. Her image, her diet, her schedule, and even her energy levels were carefully managed by studio executives. The goal was simple: create a perfect star. But perfection came at a price. From a young age, Garland was subjected to extreme pressure to maintain a specific appearance and performance level. She was pushed to work long hours. She was encouraged to stay thin to fit Hollywood's beauty standards. And she was constantly reminded that her success depended on discipline and obedience. On screen, she became one of Hollywood's most beloved figures. Her role in The Wizard of Oz transformed her into an international icon. Somewhere Over the Rainbow became one of the most famous songs in film history. Somewhere Over the Rainbow became one of the most famous songs in film history. Audiences saw her as the symbol of innocence, hope, and youthful wonder. But off-screen, the reality was very different. Number 7. Veronica Lake. Hollywood in the 1940s was defined by war, glamour, and shifting ideals. As World War II reshaped the world, American cinema became both an escape and a symbol of hope. During this era, few actresses captured public imagination as intensely, and as mysteriously, as Veronica Lake. To audiences, she was unforgettable. To Hollywood, she was a marketing sensation. And to the studio system, she was a carefully constructed image that briefly became one of the most iconic looks in film history. Born in 1922 in Brooklyn, Lake moved to Hollywood at a young age with her mother, searching for opportunity. Like many aspiring actresses, she entered the studio system hoping for stability and fame. What she received instead was transformation. Hollywood didn't just cast Veronica Lake, it redesigned her. She was given a signature style that would define her entire public identity: long blonde hair falling over one eye, soft lighting, and an air of mysterious detachment. This peekaboo hairstyle became a cultural phenomenon. Women across America copied it. Magazines featured it. And it became one of the most recognizable beauty trends of the 1940s. At her peak, Veronica Lake was everywhere. Films, posters, advertisements. Her image symbolized wartime glamour and cinematic elegance. But behind this carefully crafted image, Lake's reality was far more complicated. Unlike some stars who embraced Hollywood control, Lake often struggled with the limitations placed on her career. She wanted to be taken seriously as an actress, but studios often prioritized her appearance over her artistic development. This created tension between her and the industry that made her famous. Her breakthrough came with films like Sullivan's Travels, where she starred opposite Joel McCrea. The film was both a critical and commercial success, and it solidified her status as one of Hollywood's rising stars. But fame brought pressure, and pressure brought conflict. Number 8. Marlene Dietrich. By the time Hollywood entered the late 1930s and 1940s, the film industry had become more than entertainment. It had become influence. It shaped politics, fashion, identity, and even public opinion during wartime. Few actresses embodied this global cultural power more than Marlene Dietrich. To audiences, she was elegance itself. To filmmakers, she was magnetic. And to history, she became a figure who blurred the line between cinema, politics, and personal identity in ways few stars ever did. Born in 1901 in Berlin, Germany, Dietrich began her career in European theater and silent films before transitioning to Hollywood. From the beginning, she was different. Her presence was not loud or exaggerated. It was controlled, subtle, and deeply captivating. When she arrived in Hollywood, she quickly caught the attention of director Joseph von Sternberg, who helped shape her early American career. Their collaboration produced one of her most famous films, The Blue Angel, which transformed her into an international star. The role introduced audiences to a new kind of screen persona. Confident, mysterious, and quietly provocative. Hollywood had seen glamorous actresses before, but Dietrich's style felt more sophisticated and deliberate. She did not rely on innocence or exaggeration. Instead, she projected control, a kind of emotional distance that made her even more fascinating. Her image became iconic. Sharp suits, bold lighting, a voice that felt calm yet powerful, and an attitude that challenged traditional expectations of femininity. In many ways, Dietrich helped redefine what a female film star could be. But her influence extended far beyond film. During the rise of Nazi Germany, Dietrich made a decision that would define her legacy outside of Hollywood. She publicly opposed the Nazi regime and eventually became an American citizen. She actively supported Allied forces during World War II, performing for troops on the front lines. Number 9. Rita Hayworth. By the 1940s, Hollywood had perfected the art of creating icons. Studios no longer just discovered stars, they manufactured them. They shaped identities, changed names, redesigned appearances, and built entire careers around carefully controlled public images. And few examples of this system are more powerful than the life of Rita Hayworth. To the world, she was the ultimate Hollywood glamour queen. To Columbia Pictures, she was their biggest star. And to history, she became a symbol of beauty, transformation, and the hidden cost of fame. Born as Margarita Carmen Cancino in 1918, she came from a family of dancers. Her early life was rooted in performance, but not in Hollywood glamour. Her father was a Spanish dancer, and she trained in dance from a young age. When she entered Hollywood, everything about her identity changed. Studios believed she needed to be reinvented to succeed in American cinema. Her hairline was altered. Her name was changed to Rita Hayworth. Her image was reshaped to fit the ideal Hollywood standard of beauty. This transformation worked. Audiences were immediately captivated. Hayworth quickly rose through the ranks and became one of the most recognizable actresses of the 1940s. Her breakthrough came with films like Gilda, which cemented her status as a global icon. In Gilda, her performance combined elegance, sensuality, and emotional complexity. The film became legendary, and her image from it remains one of the most iconic in cinema history. She was no longer just an actress. She was a symbol. A poster. A dream. But behind this carefully crafted image was a woman who often struggled with the pressures of fame. Unlike her glamorous on-screen persona, Rita Hayworth's real life was shaped by instability and emotional difficulty. Hollywood expected perfection. But perfection is difficult to maintain under constant public scrutiny. Her personal life became a frequent topic of media attention. Her relationships were heavily. Number 10 Lana Turner. By the late 1930s and into the Golden Age's peak, Hollywood had mastered something no other industry in the world could replicate. It could turn ordinary people into legends overnight. It could shape identities, rewrite biographies, and create stars whose public images felt almost mythological. And few actresses embodied that transformation more dramatically than Lana Turner. To audiences, she was the sweater girl, a symbol of beauty, glamour, and screen allure. To studios, she was a reliable box office star. And to Hollywood history, she became one of the most talked about actresses of her era, not only for her films, but for the turbulent life that followed her fame. Born in 1921 in Idaho, Turner's entry into Hollywood is often described as accidental. She was discovered as a teenager while sitting in a cafe in Hollywood. That moment changed her life instantly. Within a short time, she was signed by MGM, one of the most powerful studios in the world. Like many stars of the era, her identity was carefully shaped by the studio system. Her image was refined. Her public personality was controlled. And she was positioned as a glamorous young star destined for success. Her rise was fast. Audiences were drawn to her beauty, screen presence, and youthful energy. She quickly became one of MGM's most valuable actresses. But fame in Hollywood's golden age always came with pressure. Behind the carefully managed publicity, Turner's personal life became increasingly complicated. Her relationships were widely reported in newspapers. Her marriages attracted public attention. And her private struggles often became public spectacle. Hollywood gossip columns followed her closely, turning personal events into national headlines. But her career continued to grow. She starred in numerous successful films and remained a central figure in Hollywood's star system.